Hi friends, I hope you're doing well. I'm here on my mat today and we're going to practice some snippets of the Ashtanga Intermediate or Secondary series today. And I know this might sound really scary, but I promise you we'll be all right. I'm going to pick some of the more accessible poses. I'll guide you through with some props and we're going to have some fun. So just have an attitude of being willing to try some things. This is a vinyasa heavy practice, so if you're not used to doing vinyasas, feel free to skip them or do a modified version or do something that you like to do that helps get your body back to a neutral position. So even me, I don't know how many vinyasas I'm going to be doing today. I've been kind of lax in my vigorous yoga practice lately, so I've noticed some changes in my body because of it. And I don't have a lot of stamina right now, but you know what? I am taking my life as it comes. And so this is a really important lesson, particularly when presented with a challenging practice like the one that we're going to play with today. Just know that you can do yoga at any stage in any way that you want to, and it's all totally valid, right? Just as long as you're on your mat, you're focusing and breathing, staying with your breath, and maybe making some shapes with your body. That's perfect. Okay? So that being said, we're probably going to want some blocks. So the way the Ashtanga Secondary series works is it starts out with the same set of postures as the primary series does. And that just scared the life out of me. That's Scooter. He wants to come in. Hold on. Okay, so I don't really know where I was before I got interrupted. But I'm just going to leave it at that and let's get started. So, I always like to start with beginning meditation. Today I'm going to do it seated on my two blocks, 4 and 4, to make 8 inches across with the low height, and then medium underneath me, so I have 6 inches in terms of height. So this allows my knees to drop lower than my hips. So if you have an issue where your knees aren't dropping, it's not comfortable, you might want to sit up on something like me. And then I like to sit with my shin bones on the floor. But if you like to do crisscross applesauce or lotus pose, if that's even accessible to you, which is the traditional meditation pose, feel free to choose one of those variations. That's fine too. So we're noticing where our pelvis is this morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you happen to be. Pubic bone and tailbone both dropping down equally as our left and right sits bones. Oh goodness. So we're tuning into our breath and how it's moving today. Check in with your shoulders. Make sure they're not rising up towards the ears, but dropping down your back. Take a couple deep inhales and exhales here all the way to the bottom and all the way to the top, just to clear out any stagnant air that might be lingering in our lungs. And then we'll release our breath to a neutral flow, allowing it to move naturally without direction or control. And notice where your breath is today. Is it high in your chest? Is it dropping low down towards the kidneys? Is it shallow or deep? Maybe you can start to coax it in the direction you want. So being a little bit more full, a little bit more smooth, finding a little bit more depth. And if your mind wanders off, just bring it back to this moment, this place, here on your mat. Deep breaths all the way in, all the way out. When you feel ready, you can start to deepen your breath. If your eyes are closed, begin to open them. Come back to this moment, this place on your mat. We can practice together. So in the Ashtanga sequence, we always start out with A's and B's, sun salutations. So we'll dust ourselves off, bring ourselves up to the top of our mat. Move our props out of the way. So I think I mentioned you definitely want to have some blocks handy. You may want to have a strap handy as well when we get to some postures that are unique to the secondary sequence. So we'll stand up at the top of the mat. Traditionally, big toes touching, heels about 1 inch or 2 apart. But if it's more comfortable to have your feet underneath your hips, that is perfectly fine too. Bring the hands to heart center. Big inhale here. Exhale, release. Inhale, hands come up overhead. They're in front of your heart. And then exhale, come all the way down. Into our soft forward fold. First forward fold of the day. Bending the knees, allowing your chest to come down onto your thighs. And then inhale, half lift, long spine. And then exhale, hands down, step back, and move through your vinyasa. And like I mentioned, choose your vinyasa each time. So you can come through traditional, which is plank, exhaling down for chaturanga, inhaling up for upward facing dog, and then exhaling back for downward facing dog, or some other variation. Big inhale here, big exhale. At the bottom of the exhale, stepping the feet up in between the hands. Inhale, half lifting. Exhale, forward folding, tucking the chin, and then bending the knees, inhaling, coming all the way up, hands above heart, and exhale, Samastitihi. Again, big inhale, exhale, release. Inhale, hands come up, exhale, we come all the way down. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, hands down, step back. Move through your vinyasa. So another option for vinyasa is to drop the knees. So you'll inhale, come through a modified version of plank. Exhale down for chaturanga, or come all the way down for cobra, which is all the way down on your belly. Inhaling, just lifting the upper chest, and then transitioning back for downward facing dog. So there's another modification. You can mix and match all those poses. Big inhale here. Big exhale. Stepping the feet up in between the hands. Inhaling, half lifting. Exhaling, forward folding. And then bending the knees, inhaling, coming all the way up. And exhaling, Samasthiti. One more of those. Big inhale. Exhale, release. Inhale, hands come up. Exhale, we go all the way down. Inhale, half lift. Long spine, hands just barely resting on the shins. Then exhale, hands down, step back. Move through your vinyasa. Another option for vinyasa is staying in downward facing dog the entire time, or dropping the knees and coming down into cat extended cat. All really nice options for us. And from wherever you are, once we all meet in downward facing dog, we're going to step our feet up to the top of the mat. Inhale, half lifting. Exhaling, forward folding, tucking the chin. And then bending the knees, inhaling, coming all the way back up. And exhaling, Samastiti. B series. So in B series, we're going to add in some poses. So big inhale here. Exhale, we're dropping the fingertips down to your mat, dropping your tailbone, picking up your pubic bone. You should start to feel some hollowing out here at the low belly. Then press the hands together, leaving the legs where they are, lift up through the chest for Utkatasana or fierce. And then we exhale, come back down into a forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, hands down, step back. Move through our vinyasa. Taking your time, finding what works for you. So once we're all back in downward facing dog, we're going to turn the left toes out, bring the right foot up behind the right hand, draw the right hip back, right knee forwards. So your hips should be parallel to the short edge of your mat. And then press the hands together and lift up for warrior one. And then exhale, come right back down. Step back, move through your vinyasa. Taking your time. Then from here, other side, right toes turn out, left foot comes up behind the left hand. Left hip reaches back, left knee reaches forwards. Check in with the hips. If they're off kilter here, step your back foot forward and to the outside. Then press the hands together. Inhale, lift up. Warrior one. Exhale, calm down. Step back. Move through your vinyasa. Big breath all the way in, all the way out. Finding lots of space in between your fingers, space in between your toes. Then at the bottom of the exhale, stepping the feet up in between the hands. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, forward fold. And then bend the knees. Inhale, coming all the way up for fierce. So dropping the hips, lifting the heart. And then exhale, Samasthiti. One more of those. Big inhale. Exhale, fingertips drop. So do the hips. Pick up the belly. Pick up the heart. Utkatasana or fierce. Exhale, diving all the way back down. Forward folding. Inhaling, half lifting. Exhaling, hands down. Stepping back. Moving through your vinyasa. Taking your time. Big breath all the way in, all the way out. This time, right toes turn out, left foot comes up behind the left hand. Inhale, drawing up for warrior one. Pressing the hands together, feeling the outside edges of your arms, rotating in, coming towards each other. Exhale, come all the way down. Step back. Move through your version of vinyasa, whatever that happens to look like. And then from here, left toes turn out, right foot comes up behind the right hand. Inhaling, coming up, pressing the hands together, lifting through the heart. And then exhale, coming all the way back down. Stepping back, moving through vinyasa. Taking your time. Big inhale here, big exhale. Bottom of the exhale, stepping the feet up in between the hands. Inhaling, half lifting. Exhaling, forward folding, tucking my chin. And then bending the knees, inhaling, coming up for Utkatasana or fierce. And then exhale, Samasthiti. Warm. All right, so from here, you can stay at the top of your mat. We're gonna hop our feet apart by about hip width. We're gonna come into stand hands. So we're gonna inhale, lift up through the chest. Exhale, come down. And if you can, you're going to loop your first two fingers around your big toe, thumbnail, toenail touching. This is Yogi Big Toe Hold. So from here, long legs, long arms, long spine. So I'll show you from this side. Everything here finding length. Then we're going to exhale, bend the knees, allow your chest to come down onto the thighs just like we normally do. Tuck your chin. Now, elbows are going to work our way out to the side, and we're slowly going to work towards straight legs. But we want to keep our chest down onto our thighs, so we're not losing contact there. And then as the elbows reach out to the side, you want to be able to see them in your peripheral vision. So if you look and watch me, if I draw my elbows back, I can't see them anymore, and I get a lot of activation in my back line. Instead, I want the activation across my pectoral girdle, the front part of my chest. So I want to be able to see, as I'm staring right behind me, my elbows in the edges of my vision. Big inhale here, big exhale. And then once again, inhale, long arms, long legs, long spine. Release your hold on your toes. Bend your knees. Draw the hands to the hips. Inhale, come all the way up If you have a head rush, let it pass. So then we'll hop or step our feet back together. And in traditional Ashtanga, we're going to take the right foot back and pivot. So I am using my right foot to you, my left. So we're going to do one side and then the other. Just pick one. So I have my hands to my hips. Front hip reaches straight back towards the back of the mat. We're coming into triangle pose. So heel to heel alignment. We have big toes pointing towards the long edge of the mat, front toes pointing towards the side edge of the mat. Once the hips don't move any further, growing the spine as long as possible, and then releasing the front hand down, rotating the chest open, feeling closure across the front side of the abdomen here, and then lifting up. Then we'll inhale and come up and pivot to the other side, or step up and step back. Whatever you want to do at home. I'm pivoting so that I can face you the whole time. So then from here, again, heel to heel alignment, we're going to feel tilting at our hips. So front hip reaches straight back to the back of the mat. I like to bend and straighten my front leg just to make sure I'm not locking the joint. And then once there's no more flexion to be had here in the hip joint, reaching the spine as long as possible, allowing the front hand to come down, rotating the top shoulder open, and if it's not too much, lifting up through the top hand, but be mindful you're holding onto the front line here. Big breaths, nice and easy. And then from here, we'll inhale and come up. And we're going to step up and do it all over again. So we're going to take the front foot, step it back, and this time we're going to grab a block. We're going to do a rotated posture here. So we're going to take our block, put it to the inside edge of the front foot. So we're coming into a rotated, what is this? Rotated side angle here. So we have a shortened stance like in pyramid, and both sets of toes are pointing roughly towards the top of the mat. Back toes can be pointed out just a little bit. So then from here, we're going to take a big inhale, bend the front knee, back heel is going to come up and off the floor, but we're dropping the heel towards the midline, okay? So you don't want the heel to drop open and away. We're dropping it towards. So if anything, we're finding external rotation here at the hip. Then we're going to inhale, reach up with our left arm, or the opposite arm as your front leg. And then it's going to come down onto the block. So you have support here. And then rotate the shoulders open to the side, drawing the front hip straight back. Back heel dropping towards the midline. Okay, so you have almost external rotation on both legs. And then if you want, you can lift up the opposite arm. Big breaths all the way in, all the way out. And then we'll release, inhale and come up. I'm going to step up and step back so you can see that pose on the other side. So, same thing here. Wide pyramid stance. So horizontally we have a good amount of, or vertically on our mat we have a good amount of space. So you can start out in a regular pyramid, but I like mine a little wider because I have the space. Back toes can be slightly turned out. We're going to bend our front knee and pick up the back heel, but notice back foot is rotated out. So you can do a traditional high lunge, which is both sets of toes pointing towards the top edge of the mat. That is not what we're doing here. Back set of toes is slightly turned out, so the heel is dropping towards the midline. Adds a little bit of extra challenge here, wouldn't you say? So we'll inhale, reach up with the opposite arm as it comes down. onto our block. And then we're drawing the front hip back, drawing the heel down towards the midline, and then rotating the chest. Maybe you lift up the arm. Another option for this pose is stacking an elbow here on top of the front knee, pressing the hands together and lifting through the chest. But be mindful, you're not using your arms to come into the twist. They're just there for support. One more big inhale and exhale here. Love this pose. And then release. And just for kicks, we'll wind down and come through vinyasa, just to clear that off our slate. Moving with your own breath at your own pace. All right, so we're going to step one of the feet forwards, turn the toes toward the long edge of your mat, and we're going to come through forward fold. So wide-legged forward fold, Prasarita Padottanasana. We have both sets of toes pointing towards the long edge of the mat. Outside edges of the feet are parallel, so that might mean your toes turn in a little bit. And we're going to inhale, lift up through the chest. Exhale, bend the knees deeply. Allow your chest to come forwards and the hands to come right underneath the shoulders. So now from here, long legs, long arms, long spine, like we did in our forward fold before. And then we'll bend the knees, allow ourselves to walk our hands backwards, so towards being in between our legs. And you can bend the knees, allow the chest to nestle down in between the thighs, and then work towards straightening the legs. Big inhales here, big exhales. One more big inhale. All right, so now we're going to walk the hands out from underneath the shoulders. Bend the knees, bring the hands to the hips. Inhale, come all the way up. Now, secondary series has an emphasis on back bends, so we're going to incorporate a little bit of a shoulder opener here. I'm going to turn sideways just so you can see what I'm doing. You don't have to move. But we're going to bring the hands behind us, interlace the fingers with the palm side up, okay? So this is where we're going to start. We're going to leave our hands on the back of our pelvis before we move. So they stay here. We're going to inhale, lift up through the chest. Same thing, bending the knees deeply, allowing ourselves to come forward into our forward fold. All right, now with the hands on the back of the hips, now we're going to bend our elbows slightly so we don't have locked joints in our elbows. Now from here, you can start to find some stretch. So keeping the elbows bent, hands can come away from the back, dropping down towards the floor behind you. But be mindful, we're keeping the elbows bent. This breaks up the length of the lever you're using to put force into your rotator cuff. So if you have straight arms, it's that much more force you're jamming into your shoulder joint. So we want to be kind to our shoulders. We need them for all the chaturangas we do. So we're keeping our elbows bent, allowing gravity to assist us in the pose. And if it ever becomes too much, just bring your hands back to your pelvis or release the pose altogether, opening the hands, putting them down on the floor. Okay? One more big inhale here. Big exhale. And then when you're ready to come out, hands come back to the back of the pelvis, bend the knees, inhale, come all the way up. And let your head rush past if you have one. So, then when you're ready, you can heel toe the feet back together. We're going to step up to the top of the mat. And I'm going to turn my page here to make sure I keep us on track. We're going to come through A series and onto the floor. So hands together, big inhale here. Exhale, release. Inhale, hands come up above the heart. Exhale, we come all the way down into our own lap. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, hands down, step back. Move through your vinyasa. All right, so from our downward facing dog, we're making our way onto our bellies. However, you need to do that with dignity and grace. All right, so first up is locust pose. So we're going to take one of the variations with the palms face down behind us. This is my personal favorite variation. I believe it is A variation. So the first one. So we have our hands down on our mat, and they're back by our hips or our upper thighs, depending on how long your arms are. So then from here, you should be able to have a little bit of space where you can bend the elbows and lift them up off your mat. So as you do that, pressing the palms into the floor, and you bend your elbows, you'll start to feel your pectoral muscles, pectoralis major and minor, start to engage underneath you. You'll feel them press into the floor, all right? So that's what we're going for. So this is where we're gonna get our lift, is the engagement across the front line. Now imagine burying your pelvic bone into your mat. So heavily dropping weight straight down into the floor here. Okay, so we have these two actions happening, pressing our hands into the mat, bending the elbows, and pressing our pubic bone down. Then from here, when you're ready, we'll inhale, lift up through the chest, keeping the low ribs on the mat so they do not come up off the floor. And then you can stay here or choose to maybe lift the legs a little bit. So maybe just the feet come off the floor, the ankles. Maybe you can get a little bit more lift where you're starting to feel the knees, or maybe the thighs start to lift. We're finding internal rotation underneath our legs, so big toes coming towards each other and rolling up towards the ceiling that way. One more big inhale and exhale here. Then release, hands come down underneath the chest, or the cheek, and you can roll your hips from side to side. We get to listen to Boots, drink some water peacefully as we move through our poses. And then we'll come back to center. We'll do that pose again. So hands behind us, pressing into the mat, pressing the pubic bone down. Inhale, lift up through the chest. And you can either stay here or try to add in the legs. And take 5 big breaths here. All the way in, all the way out. And then when you're ready, releasing the pose, rocking the hips from side to side. Excellent, so proud of you. If you're starting to get a lot of tension, you can bend the knees and drop the heels from side to side. It gives you a little bit more spinal twist, a little bit more neutralization in the low back. All right. So now we're going to move into Bakasana. We're going to do prep. So we're going to bring the elbows underneath our shoulders. Same thing, pressing our pubic bone down and into the mat. Now be mindful if you have a sensitive front of your pelvic girdle, basically, you don't have a lot of flesh there, you can take a blanket and put it underneath the front of your pelvis. So that's always a really nice option for those of us who need some extra cushion. So we can take our left hand, replace the right elbow with it, bend the right knee, and this is where if you have a strap handy, you might want to use it. So you can loop your strap around your foot behind you, or maybe grab it. So we're being mindful that we're not sinking into our shoulder that we have down supporting us as we're drawing our foot in towards our butts. So you're going to have big stretch across the front of the quad, press your pubic bone down to keep the stretch out of your low back, okay? Couple more breaths here, all the way in, all the way out. Then release. We'll do the other side. So elbows down, right underneath the shoulders. This time we're taking the right hand, putting it right underneath the left elbow, and then either using your strap to loop back or just getting a hold of the leg, pressing it into the floor. One more big inhale, big exhale, and release. And we're going to come all the way down onto our mat and roll the hips from side to side. Choosing what's right for you. We're going to do one more big back bend. I know your back might be starting to get a little tired. We're going to do one more. All right, so when you're ready, we're going to draw the feet in towards our butt again. And you might need to use a strap to loop around your ankles. You're going to do both at the same time. If you can, you're going to keep your chin down on your mat and reach back and see if you can get your feet. So if you can't, use your strap to draw your feet in enough that you can have some pressure drawing the feet in and feeling a stretch across the front of your shoulders. Okay, so you only have to be this far, right, if you're using your strap. So wherever you are, you just don't want to twist to get one foot and then the other. You want to be nice and neutral the whole time. So now, once you have yourself situated so you can hold on, what we're going to do is transition your grip down to your ankles if you can. Flex the feet, all right? So now from here, all we're going to do is hold on with the arms and work towards straightening the legs with the feet. So that might end up lifting your feet up off the floor a little bit. But we're going to find some lift in our back bend. Big inhale here. Big exhale. Try to keep your knees coming towards each other instead of finding separation. And then we'll release. Come all the way down. Softly roll from side to side. All right, when you're ready, we're going to bring the hands up and underneath us. We're going to transition to child's pose. Just for a brief moment, we're going to visit this. And you can shift the hips from side to side here. Just move slowly. We're not looking to cramp our back in any way. We're going to do one more back bend, and then it's all going to be forward folds from here on out, okay? So I promise we're going to stretch any kinks that you might be accumulating all the way back out. All right, we'll inhale and come up. And what would be a good back bend practice without Ustrasana or camel pose? So I'm going to use my block here. I'm going to put it on the low height in between my thighs. So again, if you have sensitive knees, put down a blanket for yourself. I have a brand new mat, so it's nice and cushy. Feels incredible. So I actually don't need the extra cushion today. So we're going to press the tops of the feet down into the mat and feel your tailbone dropping down towards the floor. So the more neutral you can keep your pelvis, the more your back will thank you later. So we're going to keep dropping the tailbone down, and we're really going to hold on to the front line here. So low ribs and pubic bone coming together. So I like to imagine I have shoelaces here and I pull them tight, and you get a nice tightness across the abdominal wall here. So you can bring your hands to your hips. Lots of variations for the hands, which can include hands with fingertips pointing up the back, hands with fingertips pointing around the hips, or hands with fingertips pointing down towards the floor. Okay? All are equally valid. All are totally fine. So I'm going to take hands with fingertips pointing forwards here. No, I think hands pointing down. All right. So then we're going to inhale, lift up through the shoulders, lift up through the chest, and then slowly work towards dropping backwards, maybe. But what's key here is lifting up as high as you can. And then when you can't lift and extend any further to the ceiling, then we extend behind us. But it's all a product of growing as long as possible through the spine. And when you're ready, we'll inhale to come out. And we'll do that one more time. So really focus on lifting the chest as high towards the ceiling as possible. And then when there's no more space to grow tall, then we maybe start to lift backwards just a little bit. And then we'll inhale and come up. Same thing, very slowly transitioning through to child's pose. So coming back down into Balasana. You can bring your hands back by the feet, palm face up. If they reach, you can interlace your index finger around your pinky toe. Big inhales and exhales here. Again, you can shift from side to side if it helps you feel comfortable. Knees can be touching or apart. All right. So from here, these forward folds, they really bring my energy down really fast. We are going to come into a soft spinal twist in order to start alleviating some tension that we might have had. So we're going to come into half Lord of the Fishes. So we're going to extend both legs. Then from here, we're going to bend the right knee. And then if it's comfortable for you, step the right foot across to the other side of your thigh. All right. So this is perfectly fine, staying right here. If you have the space, it doesn't create too much pressure in your knee joint. You can shift the weight off to the side, fold your left foot up and underneath you, and the heel is on the outside edge of your hip here. So you're not sitting on your foot, all right? But this bottom leg, this is like the cherry on top. You don't have to do that. Regardless, sole of the right foot is flat on your mat, and then we're gonna take the opposite arm, which is my left, and wrap it around the front of my thigh here and sit up as tall as possible. And just that small action, wrapping here, sitting up, you should start to feel a stretch through the outside edge of your hip flexor here. Okay, so if you need, or your rotator, if you want for a little bit more twist, you can take your opposite hand and reach it behind you, but be mindful. See, both of these arms are not pulling me into my spinal twist. They are simply giving me a little bit of an adjustment, a little bit of a self-assist. Okay? If you have lots of space, you can take the opposite hand here at the top and press the outside edge of your upper arm against the outside edge of your thigh. But again, same thing. Your chest should not ricochet back or rebound back, that's the word I'm looking for, if you release the pose. And then when you're ready, we'll release. Inhale, unwind your pretzel. Extend both legs out. Give them a shake. We'll do the other side. So this time, left foot is coming up towards the chest. If it's comfortable, you can cross over to the opposite side, but whole sole of the foot stays down on your mat, and then maybe folding the opposite leg underneath you. You don't need to, right? So then from here, same thing. This is my left knee, so my right arm is going to wrap around it. Left hand is going to come behind me. If I have space, maybe outside edge of the right upper arm comes to the outside edge of my knee. I have been liking this variation. For the last year, I've liked this wrap. Now I'm really liking this variation because it's giving me more of a stretch in between my shoulder blades as it presses this front shoulder forwards a little bit. So it's up to you. Choose a variation that works for your body. Sitting up as tall as you can, so not allowing yourself to sink into the pose. We don't want to round back, we want a straight back here. And then we'll inhale and release. Unwind your pretzel. Roll through the legs. All right, so we'll come into, let's see what's next that we can do that's comfortable. Oh, we'll do, I believe this is called gate pose, Paringasana. So we're going to extend through our right leg, take the left leg, bring it behind us, tuck the left foot up towards our butt. Now be mindful, this is an internal rotation of the upper thigh, and this can also cause a lot of pressure here in the knee joint. So if that doesn't work for your body, choose external rotation of the thigh and bring the sole of your foot to the inside edge of your thigh here. You can also, if this is really excruciating, frankly, and you're having a lot of stretch in the extended leg, you can take a blanket and sit up on it so that this heel is lower than the hips, and then you don't have so much of a stretch. Same thing goes for pressure in this knee joint. Sometimes it helps to sit up. So if you do have rotation here in this knee joint with your foot behind you, this hip, the same hip as the foot behind you, is going to get light, and that's okay. So this hip does not have to stay down on the floor. So what we're going to do is same hand as the extended leg. We're going to slide it down. Inhale, reach up with the opposite arm. So my left arm coming up and over, and come into a side bend. And we're taking the chest and rotating it up towards the ceiling. So finding lots of space here, as much as you can. Big breaths, all the way in, all the way out. And then when you're ready, we'll inhale and come up. And we're going to switch sides. So same thing here, option 4, a variation on Janu Sirsasana or head to knee pose, or take this foot and bring it back behind you, sitting up nice and tall. So what's key here is you want to drop your pubic bone down towards the mat, okay? So there's no rounding through the spine. So we're not sitting like this at the expense of the pose, okay? So once you're ready, same hand, this extended leg is going to slide down, and we're going to reach over with the opposite arm, rotating the chest up towards the ceiling. Big breaths all the way in, all the way out. And when you're ready, we'll inhale and come up. Unwind your pretzel. All right, and then we will come through a vinyasa. So hands down on your mat, stepping back, moving through, shaking your Etch-a-Sketch. Notice how each pose feels in this practice. And then we'll come all the way back down and finishing sequence. So let's see here. We will come through Paschimottanasana. So we're going to come into forward fold. So we did lots of back bends. We want to fold our energy down so that we don't feel super excited once we get off our mat. So we're going to sit with our legs extended, maybe slight internal rotation of the thigh. So pinky toe side of the foot is coming towards us here. And we're going to inhale, reach up with both arms, and then exhale, come forwards. And maybe you can grab a hold of your feet here. Maybe you hold on to your calves or your ankles. But we're really focused on the chest coming forwards towards the feet. So it's not about bringing your head down in between your knees. It's about lengthening the spine as much as possible. And then when you're ready, we'll inhale, come up. We'll move through, gosh, I don't even know what I want to do. We'll move through some version of an inversion. So if you want to do shoulder stand or Viparita Karani, which is putting your block underneath your hips, legs up in the air or legs up the wall. Really nice option. Or if you want to work on headstand, if you already know, so shoulder stand, headstand. If you already know how to do that, you've been taught in a studio, you know how to do it safely, you can do that practice at home. Otherwise, legs up the wall or dolphin. I'm going to choose to do dolphin today. I want a little bit more opening through the chest. So dolphin is like downward facing dog, except we're bringing the hands together in front of us, interlacing the fingers. Ashtangis leave their pinkies extended. And then shoulders, elbows right underneath the shoulders. So they start out a little narrow, and then as you put pressure, they slide open to be right underneath the shoulder joint. And then we come into our downward facing dog legs. So whatever variation of a pose you choose is totally fine. If you want a forward facing inversion like dolphin or headstand, or a backwards facing inversion like shoulder stand or Viparita Karani, both are fine. You can even do forearm balance if you're working on that. And then when you're ready to come out, if you're doing forward facing, we're going to come into child's pose just for a brief moment. Allow the shoulders to relax. If you're in backwards facing, you can come into plow or halasana, or just draw your knees into your chest. And then from here, we'll inhale. You have the option for one more vinyasa. And then it's time for Shavasana. So choose whatever variation of Shavasana works for you today. I think I'm going to put my legs up the back of my sofa because I want a little bit more grounding and relaxing energy after all of those back bends. But if you have another version of of Shavasana that you like, you can do another vinyasa if you really feel like it. That's fine. So if you want to lay all the way back, arms and legs extended, palms face up, that's fine. If you want to lay on your front, that's also a very calming, really nice way to end practice too. Or anything in between there. For me, I'm going to make sure that I'm covered up today because I have a lot of blood circulation. I don't want to cool off too quickly. So I'm going to put my legs up, scoot in towards my sofa as close as I can get. And make sure I'm covered up across my chest and certainly across my thighs, the front of my hip flexor. So wherever you happen to be, take a couple moments here. Notice how your body is feeling. Try to relax where you can relax. So releasing any extra tension that you might be holding on to, particularly in the major joint groups. So in your hips, in your shoulders, and then moving on to the major muscle groups, being your thighs, calves, abdominal wall, back side of the torso, biceps and forearms. And then relaxing some of the smaller groups of muscles in the body. So soles of the feet, the ankles, palms of the hands and the wrists. And then also the front of the throat, the hinge of the jaw, bottom of the mouth, including the tongue, and then the cheeks, eyes, space between and above the eyebrows. All releasing and relaxing into your final resting pose. Bringing your attention to your breath. Allowing it to come back to neutral without control or direction. Being present with your body and with your breath in this moment, this place. Of course, you are always welcome to stay here as long as you wish. But if you'd like to end with me, we're going to start to find small movements in fingers and toes, wrist or ankle circles, a roll of the head, stretch the arms, whatever helps you feel at home in your body. And then whenever you feel ready, we'll slowly roll off to one side, taking your time, feeling the expansion of the breath on 3 sides of the body and the support of the earth on the 4th. And then whenever you feel ready, we'll slowly work our way up to seated. So I hope that today's class left you feeling invigorated and with a little bit more space to breathe. As always, thank you very much for practicing with me today. Take care. Namaste.